sounds on Bulova time.
Welcome everyone to the Bulova Collector Series. Today, once again, another amazing guest. Among music legends, Nile Rodgers is truly exceptional. He amplifies his legacy as a multiple Grammy-winning composer, producer, arranger, and guitarist by constantly traversing new musical terrain and successfully expanding the boundaries of popular music. As the co-founder of CHIC and the newly elected chairman of the Songwriters Hall of Fame, Rodgers pioneered a musical language that generated chart-topping hits like La Freak, still the biggest selling single in the history of Atlantic Records, and sparked the advent of hip-hop with Good Times. Nile Rodgers transcends all styles of music across every generation with a body of work that's garnered him induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Rodgers co-founded the We Are Family Foundation with his life partner, Nancy Hunt, a nonprofit organization that promotes cultural diversity while nurturing and mentoring the vision, talents, and ideas of young people who are positively changing the world. And if that wasn't enough, in addition to all of that, Nile took the time a few years back to partner with us, Bulova, in celebrating the 40th anniversary of CHIC global hit La Freak with the special edition We Are Family timepiece, with a percentage of every sale of that timepiece being donated to the foundation's noble initiatives. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Everyone, please welcome Nile Rodgers to the show. Nile, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Mike.
It's been a long time. I love to see you in that beautiful background of that room that really shows off all of your history and all of your accomplishments. It couldn't happen to a nicer and better human. And I know we all love you. So good to see you.
Yeah, this is, you caught me. I'm at my recording studio now. So this is sort of, I guess, the entrance foyer to the studio. Like all along there are like gold and platinum records. And it's funny, someone made a joke the other day that said, God, I hope I could be like Nile Rodgers one day, where I wind up putting my platinum records down as coasters, because I even though I have a lot of wall space, the studio is big, but there's records everywhere. Like you can see they go all the way over there and all the way over there.
Wow, that's very cool.
But there they are down.
Nice. Very nice. That seems like it's probably a pretty cool museum onto its own there now.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And you know, we still are making terrific music. We just finished Coming to America, which is my second time doing the film. I did the original and I did the full score and everything. And so I'm having a blast now. I have a new record out now with Keith Urban, just came out last week. And now I'm doing Idina Menzel, who's just fantastic. I mean, just, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So let's get into a little bit and let's talk about, music is timeless, and your work and the music that you have produced in many ways is timeless. Your last Chic album was called It's About Time, which is great for people like myself in the watch business. What is your relationship with time now over your life?
Well, in the most simple way, and let's say the least painful way of talking about time, is just about music and groove. The fact that my life took the course that it did because my band had such great timing. When I'm conducting a symphony orchestra, the one thing that I seem to notice is we usually keep great time, because when I talk to them before we play, I say, look, guys, I'm accustomed to studio musicians. They have clicks in their ear. So just look at me like a click, because I'm the time, right? Here's a let's play together. And so time for me is a really important thing, because it's groove, it's feeling, it's locking in with the other players in the room. And that's what's important to me. I remember Miles Davis saying to somebody, I'm not going to say who it was, but he said to a very famous drummer, Miles went, hey man, is time just a magazine to you? I guess he didn't like the guy's groove.
Yeah. I feel sorry for that guy's confidence after that conversation.
So, you know, to a musician, time is the essence of what we do. I mean, it's all about the space and timing and time, and, you know, and even to the point, just yesterday, I got a letter from Idina Menzel, and the first thing she said to me, honestly, after she said, hello, Nile, what time do you like to work? Day or night? You know, so it's just an integral part.
And what's the answer? What's the answer to that question?
Oh, I told her I only sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. So I wake up at 5 in the morning. So we like to work in the morning well into the night. I said, but I'll do anything to accommodate your schedule because I'm flexible, because I'm always awake. So it makes no difference to me.
Okay, so you're not getting a lot of sleep. You operate on very little sleep.
I never have since I was about 5, 6 years old.
So just for folks who may just be joining us for the first time during this episode, the series is really deconstructing a book that we published 5 years ago, which was all about the history of Bulova. You were gracious enough to write a chapter in the book that had the connection of Bulova music and American history. And I know you have a story connected with a very special moment in your younger days with a Bulova watch on your wrist. I think the audience would love to hear that story.
Well, actually, the one that's on my wrist is a watch that I wear a lot. This is the 60th Grammy version that you guys did. Yep. And the reason why I wear this particular watch so much is because I've been a member of the Grammys for a long time. I've been a trustee for a long time, been a governor for a long time. And to watch how our ceremonies have been affected by time, just because of, you know, bang for the buck. And it's, you know, it used to be in New York a lot. Mm-hmm. And this, when you guys made this watch for us, that was the last time it was in New York. And honestly, I don't know when we'll be in New York again. Maybe the 75th anniversary, and I might not be around. If so, they may say, and now a lifetime achievement, and I'll come up with crutches. And it's, you know, so I wear this because I love to, when people say, what kind of watch is that? Because it's an interesting looking face, you know, because, you know, just you guys did a really great job. So people, it doesn't look normal to people, and they always ask me about it. But the watch you're talking about either could be the one that you guys made for Le Freak, or you may be talking about the watch that I was wearing during the moon landing in Central Park.
Yes, that's the story. So when we first met several years back now, and we were talking about, and there's been a recurring theme on this series in the folks that I've been interviewing, in that whether it's a Bulova watch or not, and we don't only talk about Bulova watches on the series, we talk about life, and we talk about, you know, different aspects of time, and sometimes that takes us to other watch brands. But your story was in Central Park, and you remember that moment, and more importantly, you remembered what you were wearing on your wrist, and that was a long time before we ever met, right?
Yeah, oh, come on, I was a teenager. That was an incredible moment for me, because maybe a lot of people don't realize this, but if you're a New Yorker, especially if you're a New Yorker, and maybe this is probably the same for, I was going to say Americans, but now that I've become friends with you and I know more about the brand, actually it may mean more in South America. But to New Yorkers, because whenever we're going to the airports, we go past the building and the whole bit, and it's never not been a part of my New Yorker memory. Bulova to us kids represented moving into adulthood. Prior to getting your first Bulova, you would have like the watch. I mean, you know, I come from a very poor family, so the watch that you would get in the drugstore or something like that, and maybe when you're super small, it's Mickey Mouse or whatever, or Goofy or Minnie Mouse or Bozo the Clown or something. Um, but then you become that 15, 16-year old, and you start to think like an adult. I got my first job when I was very young, so I was very responsible. I was a kid that you know, I had adult responsibilities. So getting my first Boulevard was like a rite of passage. It seemed like, okay, I'm no longer a child. Now I'm responsible. I have to pay taxes. I have to, you know, do things by the book. It's no longer, you know, running down the hall.
Mm.
Uh, so it was a big deal to me, and it's hard to explain because it may seem just like a watch, but in New York, for us, it was like, you know, if a person looked at your wrist and you had a Bulova, people, it just seemed like you felt more mature. Whether that's the case or not, if you just believed it, then it's good enough. And you know, I remember the Central Park landing so incredibly well. And I remember when you and I were talking about this, I said, man, you know, there were so many firsts. One, they were landing on the moon. That was a big enough deal. Uh, but two, I was a hippie and I was dressed in a certain way. And the only way people got pictures of themselves is usually it was a reporter, Daily News and New York Post. So we had a lot of newspapers in New York at that time. And because I was so freaky looking, I was sure.
You were going to make the paper?
I was sure that and even if I didn't make the paper, because the editor may say, nah, we don't want that child. We don't want a black guy. We don't want to, we don't, whatever. But I'm sure somebody had to take that shot because I was pretty, pretty flamboyant. And now when I see the shots of that happened to be printed, it mostly looked like NYU students. You know, it's a very sort of collegiate, almost what I would say, the guys who used to wear jackets with the patches on their elbows, you know, kind of shot.
Yeah,
it didn't look like my crowd, and my crowd was very present. So the reporters were, or the editors were very conscientious of what they showed in the papers that day. So it was just a super special day. And I told you before, for so many reasons. The first time I ever saw what resembled a Jumbotron, and I couldn't figure out how it worked, and all sorts of stuff. And just a magical time. And because I couldn't remember if the park had a curfew that day, but I noticed that a lot of people asked me about my watch, or a lot of people saw it, or my friends, other hippie friends who didn't have watches, who didn't really care about time, were always asking me, yo, brother Nile, what time is it?
What time is
it? Hey, man, you know, like, man, you know, we got to get down to this being because, you know, whatever. So, I mean, I was ultra hippie.
You know, it's interesting. You're talking about New York, you know, your whole experience about New York being were you born? I'm assuming you were born in New York. You were born. Born in New York. If I remember correctly, you grew up Hell's Kitchen. Is that right? If I remember, or?
Almost the other side of town.
The other side. Yeah.
Lower East Side.
Oh, okay. Lower East Side. Okay.
And Greenwich Village. So when my parents were poor, we lived on the Lower East Side. When my parents were doing well, we lived in Greenwich Village.
Got it. So, you know, we were chatting, I guess it was about 3 months ago now. We were talking about the role of Bulova. But everything that you just said, it's funny, and we haven't had a conversation because we haven't talked in a while. But we were talking about this exact feeling that you were saying, and about, proud New Yorkers. Really, we came up with this idea, especially during this moment in time in our lives, and what's been happening certainly in New York City, has not been easy on certain people. And we said, as a brand, we felt strongly that, we wanted to recognize, especially the food industry first got hit really hard. And I mean, they're still feeling it. Restaurants have closed, for good. Some restaurants have been open for 100 years in New York are gone. And so we did this. We've been doing this series episodic on social media called Proud New Yorkers, and we've been highlighting different restaurants, and actually we're going to be highlighting now a few different iconic buildings. But it's this whole idea. And I was just so happy that you just brought this up, especially for people that are from New York, that really feel that that connection, of being here, and whether you're in Connecticut or whether you're in Turks and Caicos, you're always that proud New Yorker, right? It's always in you.
I'm so New York, it's ridiculous. I always think that, when people ask me where I'm from, I say, isn't it obvious? New York is just dripping off of me. And they say, no, you don't have an accent. I say, aha, because I'm from Manhattan. You think when you think of New Yorkers, you're thinking of somebody from Brooklyn or Queens or Staten Island. No, I'm from Manhattan, and that's how we speak.
Yeah. So besides producing some of the most incredible music, you also find time to dedicate a lot of your life to the We Are Family Foundation, which you created with your life partner, Nancy Hunt. Tell us a little bit about how it started and how it relates to today's historical moments that we're living in.
Well, quickly, it was a direct reaction to the tragedies of September 11th. And three of my friends were in the very first plane that was crashed into the North Tower. And I started getting phone calls from people all around the world with what they thought was a brilliant idea, which was to re-record the song We Are Family to help jumpstart the healing process, because it's such an upbeat, good feeling song. And I just refused. I kept saying, no. As a composer, I wrote that song for Sister Sledge. This is their family song. And they said, no, you don't understand. When we go to bar mitzvahs and birthday parties and weddings, that's the song. Everybody sings We Are Family and everybody knows it. And I was a bit perplexed. And, as a composer, you see things one way, but you also appreciate the fact that people are open to interpretation and they take from it what they get, which is perfectly fine with me. But as the composer, to actually record it with another purpose in mind did not seem proper to me. But they hit me with this. They made an offer I couldn't refuse. They said, now we just saw this movie with you and Nelson Mandela, and Nelson Mandela's words were, when he was in prison, the black guards were dancing around and singing this song by white girls talking about they were going to be a family. And he said it made him feel like South Africa wouldn't be segregated forever. And at that point I was like, wow, really? Like, man, okay. Of course I knew from whence that story had come, because when Mr. Mandela came to New York, he came to Robert De Niro's restaurant, and I was one of the guests. And so I heard the story firsthand from him, but I didn't realize that the editors had left that story in the film that the people had seen. So they were calling me, honestly, from all over the world, but it was the calls from South Africa that moved me the most. And I thought, all right, well, I'll do it. And the next thing I know, I had 200 people. It was like, I put out the call. I called Diana Ross first. And after Diana Ross said yes, and it wasn't, I didn't tell everybody. I didn't use Diana to market the event because I've known Diana for a long time, and people weren't able to fly right away. So I didn't really know how she was going to make it to New York. So I didn't tell anyone that Diana Ross was coming, but she said she would be there, and she was. She drove. I couldn't believe it. Um, and like I said, 200 people wound up coming to the recording studio, and we recorded it. Um, and it felt like the safest, happiest place in the world, certainly in America. At the end of the session, nobody wanted to leave. Spike Lee directed the music video, and it was, I don't think I've ever had that kind of feeling before or since. I mean, it was a truly, truly magical day. And then when the plane started to fly again, we went to Los Angeles and pulled off the same thing. And that was incredible. And most people don't know I started out with Sesame Street. That was my first really professional job. So I started to notice that the the images that everybody was seeing on television were all pardon me, negative images, because it was a very horrible situation. But kids were also seeing that too.
Mm.
So I just got an idea to call my friends on at what we call the street, and Sesame Street said, yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we invite all the other characters over to the street and show that we are family? And I was like, wow. Now, I know how competitive children's television and children's brands are, because, you sell a ticket to a children's character performance, you're selling more than one ticket because the mother's got to bring.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you end up with 8 people.
yeah, right. It's highly competitive. And the fact that all of the children's networks allowed me to roadblock, and which means to show the same music video at the exact same time, was incredible. And I had, once again, hundreds of characters in there, from everything from, Dora the Explorer to the Sesame Street characters. I mean, every children's character that was popular at the time, I got.
And so today, that's so the We Are Family Foundation hits off or kicks off at a moment when, arguably was one of the lowest moments in the last 100 years of our country. And actually
Yeah.
today we're in another kind of like crazy times and crazy moments. So where's the foundation today in terms of its work?
So what happened is, so by going from adults to kids, so we went from big humans to little humans, we realized the humans in the middle were actually the most effective, because they can operate with fairly autonomously. I mean, they're almost adults, and they're fired up, and they're just they're highly motivated. So basically, we wound up becoming a teen mentoring organization. And with that platform, we have been incredibly successful. We have some of the most dedicated young people in the world. We've touched millions and millions and millions of lives. And when I say millions, I mean millions and millions and millions and millions. We've built schools all around the world, and some of the worst, from the most impoverished countries. We've built groundbreaking schools where, instead of trying to force our ideals down their throat, what we did is we taught by example. We brought kids from America to build schools in countries where girls weren't allowed to do things like build. I mean, like, are you kidding me? No, girls go down to the river and wash clothes and cook food. And all of a sudden, they had these young American girls building buildings, and they were the architects, and they could see it. And when those girls saw that, that was it. They would say to their fathers, Daddy, I want to build, I want to build buildings. And so it's just, it's been a wonderful thing to see something like this, to have a vision of an organization that could be proactive rather than reactive. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. And this year we started a new initiative called Youth to the Front Fund. And this was for people who were not just teens, but people who were doing things in the community. Um, Typically, their programs were about inequity and racial injustice and things like that. And those type of initiatives are not very easy to get funded. You can't go in with a business plan and say, this is what we want to do. So we started raising money and giving grants to these programs. Every one of them has been successful. And now we're at our second round of grants, and we have just some of the greatest people that we've ever encountered. And now we've just started a brand new initiative called Youth to the Table, where we invite our teens to be in the C-suite. And I cannot believe the various CEOs from all over the world that are saying, we want to hear their opinions. You remember the Tom Hanks movie, Big, where
yes, great movie.
it's like, some of these kids have the best ideas, not just the best commercial ideas, but the best, corporate social responsibility idea. I mean, they really are plugged in, and the CEOs are listening to them. They're saying, we get it because you're on the ground, you're living it. And as you well know, adults, we always think we know best, but we're basing it on our lives and the way it was then. And the world is moving faster now than it's ever moved. And as we now know, I know with your status, that we're in the knee of a technology curve that's more things will be invented in the next 10 years that have been invented over the last 100 years. And that's a scientific fact. I mean, every day, I'm hearing from some new startup that built something that we went, wow, just think, before 4G, all of the things that are normal in our lives, we didn't even have that stuff, 7 years ago. But now we can't live without it.
I was just listening to a couple of podcasts, and they were saying that, most people would say, oh, we've been in the digital age, but in fact, we're just entering, to your point, we're just entering the digital age. We haven't even really touched it yet. We're just getting out of what we would know. And, your generation and later on my generation, in terms of analog, we were really analog generation. So what's coming down the pike is a tsunami of, more change. We certainly have not scratched the surface of what's coming.
What's great is that you're an international company, and I play music, so I'm an international company, and I get to go all over the world, and I get to see innovation on a level that just is mind-boggling. America, we got to start doing some catching up. I mean, I was like in Vietnam, and I was like, wow, this is like Star Wars. Like, what is this? The last time I did a concert in Macau, they had just launched a rail service that went from Macau directly to Beijing in like hours. I mean, like, if you can't picture on the map how far that is, it's really far. And the train travels on magnets, and it's zooming, and you don't feel anything. It's like 300 miles. It's crazy.
And meanwhile, it takes us almost 5 hours to get from New York to Boston, which is not anywhere near the miles or kilometers that you just mentioned.
Right. Like our big rail is like the Acela, like that. Yeah. That's like, I mean, come on, guys. So yeah, we have a lot of catching up to do. And that's another great thing that I loved about Bulova throughout my life. It's always in my mind as a New Yorker represented where do we go next? Like, what's the next thing? You know, it's always felt like an innovative company.
Well, for us to be able to publish a book, you know, that says a history of firsts, you know, is a testament to all of the managers and to the founder of the company, Joseph Bulova, and that they were always visionaries. You know, it's really quite unique for a brand to been as lucky, you know, as lucky. And I say lucky because you have to have some luck, you know, for them to have all of those firsts. But it's really a unique brand. It's 145 years uninterrupted alone. I would say today for a brand, and you and I both know we like fashion brands, and so we know there's a lot of different types of brands in the world, but for many of them to last 145 years without interruption, I always think is quite a feat, you know, and there's not many brands like that. So just to switch gears and maybe pun intended, I know that you're a watch collector, and here we don't care. We mention other brands if that's what we need to do. And so what's your favorite timepiece from a technical standpoint? And which one is your favorite from an emotional point of view? And why?
From a technical standpoint, wow.
Is there a movement? Is there a watch that you own that has this incredible movement that you know, that you just like to look at, or you bought it because you were so intrigued by it, or?
Yeah, well, of course, there's always, you know, those type of watches. I actually, you know, it's interesting. I have a Girard Perregaux, and I actually like it because I do like to sit around and just look at the movement and the jewels and, you know, and the whole bit, and just to see how it works. And also because when they were designing that watch, they allowed me to come into the shop and put one together.
Oh, wow.
And I was like going, wait a minute, what if I screw up? And it's like, you know, would you let me come in and perform surgery? But it was really interesting. But you know, I'm more of a sentimental type as well as a fashion type of brand guy. So I have a lot of, you know, very high-end expensive watches that were either given to me as a present because of a project that I was working on, a film project or a music project or something. And either the watch played a role in the film, or it was just a nice present that the director or the producer or someone gave me.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I could think of right off the top of my head is a film called The Saint. And when they did that film, Bulgari made, you know, a bunch of watches, because if they ruin one, you know, so they made 100.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 100, I got, I don't know, I forget my number, but it's a pretty low number. And even though I had nothing to do with the film, it was timing. I walked into Bulgari to get something fixed, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Rodgers, what do you think about this? It came in the mail today." That's the best sell job for me. If I walk into a shop and they tell me, no one wants this, everybody looks at it, but no one buys it, or it just came in today, sold. And that's what happened. I walked in, they said, "Hey, it's just arrived in the mail. What do you think?"
Good salesman. Good salesperson.
It's like they knew me at that point. And I have a number of timepieces like that that are special and unique. And as I said, the reason why I wear this one, I wear this a lot. I wear this because it looks cool. It's modern and retro at the same time, but also because the Grammys as an institution have meant so much to me over my life. They brought me into the organization when I was fairly young, and I'm not going to try and take a huge amount of credit, but I am a little bit. One of the best parts of the Grammys is the in memoriam section. And before I got there, they didn't have one. And I was a trustee, and I went after him big time. And I went, wait a minute, guys. When we watch the Oscars or anything else, they pay homage and they pay tribute to people in their industry that have passed away. I cannot believe we don't do that. Well, we'd much rather have another performance. No, no, no. And I fought and I fought and I fought. And after me, there's In Memoriam.
So I totally appreciate that you fought for that, because it's actually one of my favorite. When I say favorite, I find that
I know what you mean, though, right?
It's an emotional part of the show, and sometimes I've watched the show not realizing, because sometimes we were
best way, right?
Yes, and then I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe that such and such is no longer with us, and such and such passed away. So it's almost kind of a moment for us, who love music, to remember, some really great people.
And it's become so important to the show that even at the last minute, if someone passed away that morning, or something like that, if you remember the case of Whitney Houston or things like that, they'll get it in there.
Yeah. Where do you think the Grammys are going? What did you think about the show? Obviously it was a non-performance, live performance studio, Staples Center, as we were used to seeing. So one question, how did you feel about the show this year? And then where do you think the Grammys, where do you think their path will take them?
I think like the same thing with our foundation, you have growing pains. And because when something big happens in the world, artists are the ones who typically address it first. They have a huge platform. They are affected by these things that negatively affect the world, and they want to talk about it. They want to write about it. So sometimes the shows get a little too weighted one way. It's all, to me, it's all about balance. Everything is all about balance. At the end of the day, I always say this, and I've always believed this since I was a kid because of my music teachers and drumming these concepts into my head. They said, Nile, try and think of one celebratory situation that doesn't have music with it. Just give me one. And he said, good or bad. If it's sad, if it's a funeral, they have music. If it's this, they have music. And I thought, wow, that's right. I mean, music is something that celebrates, it pays tribute to even, trivial ideas. I certainly know I do. I remember walking past a pond and seeing a couple of goldfish and being so moved that like, wow, I've never seen goldfish in the wild.